giving us the opportunity to come into your homes once again with yet another exciting edition of your favorite youth television program. You're welcome. This is the Meet Your Mentor TV show. We're dedicated to bringing you inspiring success stories that resonate with the youth. Stories that will guide you on your own path to success. And I'm your host. My name is Daniela Asariedu. We're coming to you from the Central University Mataheko campus. My beautiful outfit was made by Millie K Garments, my makeup by Nodi's Makeup, and we're being supported by Cheesy Pizza. I'll introduce my guests to you right after this break. You're welcome back. I encourage you all to seek out teachers and mentors who guide you to find your own voice and who challenge you to think for yourself. I couldn't agree more with these words of American actress Renee Olstead, and that's why I'm particularly excited to be having today's conversation with a phenomenal woman. Our mentor for today is Christabel Dadzie. She's an international development specialist with extensive experience working on economic development across Africa, Latin America, and South Asia. She currently works with the World Bank as a senior social protection specialist. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome our mentor for today, Christabel Dadzie. Hello. You're welcome. Please. Ms. Dadzie, thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to have this conversation. We're grateful that you. Yes, awesome. So, first of all, I'd like you to share with us what your what background you came from and what your educational experiences were.
Sure. I'm blessed to come from a family of accomplished parents. My mother is a human rights lawyer. My father is a doctor who worked with WHO for pretty much his entire career. And I'm the last of 4 children. If we're talking about education, I went to St. Teresa's Primary and JSS in North Kaneshi, and then went on to Abri Girls, did my senior high school there, and then I went to the United States and studied international relations at the College of Worcester in Ohio, after which I did my master's degree at Columbia University in international affairs, focusing on economic development.
Right. How have these experiences shaped you into the woman you are today?
I think they're all a direct correlation to who I am today. If I start from family, my parents were instilled in us very core family values, the major one being education. And so I tell people the story of how I was graduating from college and my parents came in. My father brought me lovely, expensive pearls, and my mother got me a kente outfit, which I did wear on graduation. Then I had friends who were getting cars, so I went to my parents and was like, you know, where's my car, essentially. And they both looked at me like, what, undergraduate degree, you want a car? You must be kidding me. So very early on, we were, you know, education really was what it was. You need to go to school and you need to make something of yourself, but most importantly, you need to give back to society. So in everything that I've done in my life, that is kind of what is at the back of my mind. To whom much is given, much is expected.
Awesome. You've definitely had the opportunity to experience both sides of education. So education here, education there. What would you say the difference is?
There's a vast difference between US education and Ghana education, and I want to be specific on US because you know, we went to school in a system that is really tough, actually, and you can relate to this. And so you become really smart in what it is that you're taught in school, but I don't think we do as well when it comes to application of, you know, the information that we're giving. Flip side of it, and particularly with the education I got through a liberal arts college, is the fact that we were able to really give application on everything that we did, and we're allowed to explore. I know in Ghana, for example, if you start in one track, if you want to switch, you probably have to go back. But in the US, you were allowed to essentially figure yourself out, and I think that allows you to become a better student, because you go around and you realize what it is that you can do best, versus having to be in one direction and then realize along the way that that direction wasn't really it, but then there's nothing else you can do. And so that, I would say, is one of the differences. On the flip side, though, majority of the Ghanaians, when they went abroad, were some of the smartest students because of that rigorous education that we're used to. So there's good on both sides and then not so good on both sides.
Right. Staying on this just a little bit more. So, I mean, I'm thinking about the way forward. And I know that definitely it will take a longer time to change the system. But what can we do as young students to be able to marry a bit of the rigorous nature of education, but also the application side? How do we help ourselves?
Right. Interestingly enough, I actually work on youth employment as part of my job at the World Bank. And this is exactly what we take a look at. The world is changing literally overnight. And so we have discussions around the future of work, and we talk about digitization, we talk about artificial intelligence, we talk about all these elements of it. But then COVID hit, and then very quickly, we all started using technology in a way that maybe we hadn't before, which tells you that the future of work is actually the present of work. So what do you do with that information? It means that you have to be versatile. You have to be exposed. One of the many things that I do, I have an organization called AHASPRA, which supports returnees, but at the same time, we also give back by mentoring high schoolers. And one of the things I tell them all the time is that you need to be involved in your community. Now, everybody thinks of leadership and they think of the president of an association or the chair. No. If you are in a choir, for example, and you go in every morning to clean the chairs so that when the choristers come in, they have a good place to sit and sing their hearts out. That is leadership. That is taking ownership of something that you do. And we need to do more of that. We need to be involved in our community. And you learn through those processes, you learn things that you can't be taught in school. So I think to the youth, I would say that as you're going through the education as it stands, it's important that you also find yourself. If you can't find it in the classroom, look for other things. There's a gardening you're interested in so that you take on leadership of the gardening in your house, for example, in your dormitory, for example. But also, I think on the government side of things, there are some quick fixes that are possible. For example, can we look at career development services within schools? So that from the day you enter school, and I'm not talking about university because at that point it's too late. We need to really start from around GSS. And I do think the junior secondary school system that was set up that allows you to do technical skills, technical drawing, agriculture, carpentry, the idea makes a lot of sense in today's world. So it's really a mindset of thinking about what it is that is in front of you and trying to expand it to fit a different territory and being creative. The last thing I'll say though is that a lot of the youth today just want to be CEOs on their own and be able to say, I own a company, I run a company. And I want to encourage people to think of partnerships.
Ms. Dadzie, can you share a bit with us exactly what you do at the World Bank?
Sure. I am a senior social protection specialist in the social protection and jobs unit. So at the World Bank, we look at livelihoods based on jobs, whether you're the poorest person or the richest person. If you're hungry, I mean, think about it, talking about human rights and all of that is very good, but if you're hungry, yes, it doesn't really pay off. So that's how we look at it. Basically what that means is that I work with government on project designs and implementation to provide social programs for the poorest and the most vulnerable. I'm sure some of you have heard of the LEAP Cash Transfers Project. That is something we promote to give cash to people who could not sometimes have a meal a day. Imagine that. But I also focus on youth employment, providing both analytical and research studies on evidence around what will promote youth employment, given that we have a major youth bulge on our hands. And Africa is going to be the world's most youthful population in the next few years.
You mentioned something about research to provide evidence. Can you share with us some of the things that you find are the reasons why we have this major issue? Because it is a major issue.
Great. And interestingly enough, just last year, actually, we put out a publication on youth employment opportunities and options. And in that, we identify focus areas that the youth can go into in Ghana to improve their employment space. But we actually take a step back and we look at what youth is. A lot of people think of youth and it's a homogeneous group of people. Oh, you're between this age and that age, and so you're youth. If you tackle it from that angle, you're not going to solve problems. You need to take a look at youth on different categories. So we do that, looking at location, rural, urban, looking at access, educated, secondary school educated, tertiary school educated, not educated, looking at gender. The statistics demonstrate that most women have a more difficult time getting into the job market and maintaining a job than men. Now, if you see what I'm doing, I'm breaking down the issue of youth, and what that does is it allows government and the private sector to be able to tackle the problems based on the specific needs of that youth. In terms of the sectors that we reviewed and came up with in Ghana, agriculture is a big one. And when I talk about agriculture, I'm not talking about farming. I'm not talking about the whole value chain. There's accounting in there. There's finance in there. There's warehouse opportunities, so engineering. There's irrigation. There's processing. You know, and a lot of the money actually is in the processing. So how can our youth be placed in these different areas or be exposed to these different areas instead of seeing farming as a poor man's job, a poor old man's job? But there's a lot of opportunity there. We look at agriculture, we look at apprenticeships. In Ghana, you know, sadly for us, there's this mindset that it's getting better, but a lot of people think about it in the ways that this is the track for the smart people, and then vocational and technical training is for the not so good students. And that is actually a huge part of our problem, because for example, when I was studying in my master's program, I was babysitting, you know, because in the US, nobody even thinks twice about you washing dishes while you're getting a PhD or you sweeping the streets. But somehow in Ghana, we have this box of what a good job is. And I think that is usually some of the problems. Because today, like I said before, you find people in the arts and the creatives who are doing extremely well. So how do we harness that moving forward?
What are the values that drive you?
I can think quickly of two. The first one, actually, I don't even know if you put it as a value, but patriotism. My maternal grandfather was diehard Ghanaian and told us all these stories about his work with Kwame Nkrumah and J.B. Dankwa and others. And I remember these stories as a young girl, and they've driven me to want to do better for my country. And I really encourage our youth today to really find their space and ownership in Ghana. You know, you can't sit back and expect your country to do well. You can't say everything is for the government to fix. No, you are the government, you know, and you are the solution. And so that patriotism that I learned in my upbringing really pushes me to wear Ghana on my sleeve. Everywhere I go, you know, by the time you talk to me in 10 minutes, you know I'm from Ghana, and Ghana is one of the many countries in Africa. Africa is not a country. I will go on and on and on about the good parts, and I think we should really try to do that some more, you know, really highlight what is good and positive about our country, and then be a part of the change. The other one is excellence. You know, in everything you do, you should drive towards excellence. As to whether you achieve it, you know, is a different situation, but it's the journey that is important, not necessarily the end. And so if you push for excellence in all you do, it really means that you have a higher calling, and things that you do are bigger than you, that I think is important. So those, you know, amongst other values are very important to me.
Awesome. I'm very sure that within your journey, you've had some moments that somebody would term as low moments, or maybe not failures particularly, but, you know, moments where you felt that this is what I wanted and I didn't get it done, or I didn't get it done as much as I wanted to. Can you share with us those moments?
Oh, gosh. Yeah, that's on the spot. Let's see. I mean, I've had my low points like any person. I've had, you know, I didn't do as well in lecture maths. First of all, I didn't even want to do it. Let's go there first, which is, you know, back to the education system that we have set up. You know, I grew up speaking French before English, and got to high school, and then fast forward, I'm in Ibri Girls, and my mother is called because we had a math exam that if you are first 80, you're in the sciences automatically. and I was the 18th. I'll never forget this in my life. I was the 18th, and so I should be a science student. And I was like, no way, no how, I don't want to be a science student. Fast forward, my mother was called to the school, came in, and then they said, well, you know, the smartest kids are doing some sort of math, so you should do elective math, and I hated it. And so I didn't apply my drive for excellence that I talk about now. I go to the classroom and I do the one that is interesting, I think. And then I like matrices, so I'll do those. I like probabilities. I like things that you think and analyze. Then the other things, forget it, I'm not even going to be involved in it. Fast forward to everything, I was like straight A student with a D in math. It didn't quite affect me in a sense, but it broke me, you know, because it made me really feel unaccomplished. But when I look back and I know how I got there, that was a failure, so to speak, but I didn't stop there, you know. I went on to the US, wrote the SATs, did okay, not great. But then I defined myself, which is what I talked about at the beginning, fortunately through a liberal arts education that allowed me to explore. And today I'm here with a story that is not complete, but at least I have something to share with those behind me. So, I mean, I say this example to say that don't necessarily make that define you, because I know in our society a lot of the times, you know, and C and below, it's like a big deal, and people can cry and, you know, starve themselves as a result because they don't even know how to go tell their parents. But I really think that you should define yourself beyond that classroom grade and think of the other things that you're good at and keep pushing ahead.
I've been having a conversation with Miss Christabel Dadzie, who's an international development specialist, and it's been absolutely inspiring. We'll be back after this break. You're welcome back. This is the Meet Your Mentor TV show. My name is Daniela, and I'm interacting with Miss Christabel Dadzie. In one of the articles that I read on you, one of the things it said was that you're interested in helping young people or encouraging young people to explore their interest. How has that yielded results for you so far?
Well, I think it's fulfilling, period, to be able to share your life story, your mistakes with people that are behind you. I mean, I started this discussion by telling you that for me, I go by the words, to whom much is given, much is expected. So if I've had an education, if I've had global exposure, I need to come back and share it with the people right behind me. A lot of the times we have these, you know, discussions and mentoring programs like this one, and you bring somebody who is like maybe, you know, in their 70s, well accomplished, has been a president and this and that. And when you're young at, you know, 15, 17, that's just way up on the ladder for you. You know, it's easier when you have people that are also struggling, you know, or they've just been through some of the things you went through to share. So that's what I try to do. And I focus a lot more on personal and professional development. And if you talk to employers these days, they will tell you that a lot of the reasons they are not filling positions is because they don't have the right caliber of employees they're looking for. And they're looking for values like critical thinking, like work ethic, showing up on time, taking things that you do seriously, being an engaged citizen. I talked about community engagement as an example, caring about your surroundings, taking ownership. To me, those are the values that I'm hearing employers and I employ that we need in our youth. And so that is what I like to share. And most important is to enjoy what you do. I think that is really important.
Now, I'd like to find out, you came from a relatively privileged background, but also one of the things you do is to work with a lot of poor people.
Yes.
How can people who do not have, say, what you had, or people who do not have such opportunities rise from there? How can somebody from a really poor background make use or even find opportunities around them to become something?
Right. You and I, that's what it is. You know, making a concerted effort to be a part of somebody else's life. Role models and mentors is very important. But also, I tell people all the time, seeing that Accra is not Ghana. I think that is really important. You know, you go to the northern region, it's like a different country altogether. you know, they have the best food, in my opinion, and the best variety of grains and all of that. So there's a lot of positive there, but there's also a lot of poverty there. And the question is why, you know? And I think that beyond, you know, sitting back and enjoying your privilege, first of all, own it, right? And this is something I've learned to do.
Okay.
In the past, I would apologize for who I am. I don't do that anymore. I own who I am, but I was put in this life for a purpose, you know, and my purpose also should include giving back to people who are less privileged. So, you know, we can talk about all the academic and professional elements of the systemic nature of poverty and all of that, which is what I do in my daytime, but I like to look at the practical aspect of things. When was the last time you talked to a little girl who was poor? When was the last time you paid 160 cedis so that somebody can go to school in one term, somebody that would never have entered a classroom, and all they need for the term is 160 cedis? I'm sure we can do this, right? Yeah. So it's the little things that make a difference, but most importantly, telling your story. You know, a lot of young girls will watch today and say, oh, if she could do this with a D in ad maths, maybe I can do it too, right? And that is the truth, right? That as we fall, there is the opportunity for us to rise. So it's for us to first of all, have the action of helping people out, because the other thing that annoys me is when we show up at Christmas and give bread and rice and then walk away. Yeah. For a lot of them, it's not their fault. They just happen to be born in a family. That's what we call multi-generational poverty. And it's just because you were born in a family that doesn't have, you know, or you were placed in a location. There's a book by Malcolm Gladwell, and I think Jeffrey Sachs also talks about the geography of poverty. You know, so there's real elements that make it a systemic problem. But what can you and I do? We can be a big sister or a big brother to, you know, a little girl, a little boy who is less privileged.
If you were to share with us top 3 lessons you have learned in your entire journey up till now, what would they be?
I think one that comes to mind very quickly is wherever you're placed, do the most out of it, make the most out of it. I graduated from Columbia University, as I mentioned, in 2007, when there was the major economic crisis in the US. In fact, a lot of Ghanaians lost their jobs in the financial sector. And so here we are, finished from, you know, one of the best schools in the US, but you can't find a job. Fast forward to finding a job in US public policy, but I did international affairs. And, you know, ideally I would like to work in the UN, the World Bank, these places. That's not what I found. I found myself in doing public policy US in discussions around Medicare and Medicaid that I'd never even heard of. This is health insurance, by the way. But once I got that job, I decided that I wouldn't be like some of my other classmates and sit back and wait and say, no, I went to school in this and I'm gonna wait. No, I took on the job and I decided to make the most out of it. Fast forward to 3 years later, because my boss knew I was interested, he allowed me to write proposals for USAID, which in the end landed me in a job traveling the world doing economic development projects, right? So you see a storyline here, which is that when I started off in this place that I didn't necessarily want to be, I could have pouted and, you know, or not even take it, but I used it as an opportunity, as a stepping stone, as a way to learn. There's always a way to learn on something, and then it paid off. So that is one. The other thing also is that I think, and this is actually based on something that I do and I'm teaching myself not to, we shouldn't overthink things too much. If you have an idea, just do it. You know, start something. You know, I mentioned to you that I formed a returnee organization called Ahaspora. I did it because I was on the plane coming back home and I thought, my God, how great will it be if this plane was filled with Ghanaians who were returning home to join the development process. And I called a few friends and they thought it was a brilliant idea and we started. 10 years later, Ahaspora is still alive, right? So when you have something that you think is a good thing, you can sleep on it, dream on it, but do it. The last thing I'll say is that there's a saying that goes, if your dream is not big enough, it's not a dream at all. Dream big, think big. Position yourself in a future where you are way more than you want. And speak to it and then align your goals towards that.
Finally, let me ask you this. If you had the opportunity to speak to the 20-year-old you, what would you tell her?
Oh boy, wow. I think I would say that live. You know, every experience, good, bad, ugly, shapes who you become in the future. Looking back and regretting things does not help in any way, shape, or form. Explore more. One of the things that I talk about in terms of international development is maybe when I couldn't find a job, when I was looking for a job after school, I should have just hopped on a plane to Somalia and go do some humanitarian affairs. I don't know. I just feel like the world is this big, amazing space with, you know, people and cultures that we should try to get to know. Don't stay in one place. Well, now I'm not talking to the me at 20 because I actually did travel quite a bit, but I think I'm talking to the woman at 20.
Yes.
Explore your world. As whenever there's an opportunity to hop on a plane or hop in a car and learn a new experience, go for it. You know, go to the north, the east. The country's beautiful, right? There's so many places that a lot of people don't see because you just stay in Accra or stay in your locality. So explore, and it really always exposes you to new things and broadens your horizon.
True. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I've absolutely enjoyed this conversation. We'll take a couple of questions from our audience.
Sure.
Madam, you had the opportunity to study in Ghana and also abroad. So if you compare both education systems, do you think our education system here in Ghana should be restructured to enable, the youth identify their capabilities and talents from the onset? And also, there are students who find themselves in school studying courses that were chosen for them by other people. What message do you have for those people too?
Excellent question. I think I answered that question to you when I talked about
Yeah.
my own failure because I, didn't necessarily do the courses that I would have loved to do. I do think our education system, it's getting there. It needs to be restructured such that we're exposed to things other than math, English, and science early on. But beyond that, for me, the most important pieces are the soft skills, right? So I remember there were times that I couldn't ask questions to teachers. The teacher is teaching, I have no clue what the teacher is saying, but it's not time for questions. Then when it's time for questions, I've forgotten my question, so I'll just keep quiet and sit in my corner. Or you ask a question and somebody laughs at you because it demonstrates that you don't know. These are things that I think we should change. The other thing I've also seen working with youth is public speaking. A lot of particularly young women are very shy. And for some reason, being a lady is correlated to being shy. I haven't seen that in any other part of the world I've been to.
So, Madam, please, I'd like to know if the World Bank is accepting applications for fresh graduates.
I love it. Why not? We, for the most part, because of the work we do, tend to hire people with master's degrees in terms of the research that they'll do. That being said, we have over some time had internship programs where we've included people from undergraduate degrees to do, to be exposed to the job markets, kind of a job shadowing kind of thing.
Once again, thank you so much for doing this with us. I have been inspired. I think I'm going to go back and listen to this conversation from the beginning so I can pick certain things for myself. And I'm really grateful you could do this with us. And thank you for doing the viewing at home. This has been the Meet Your Mentor TV show. We share with you inspiring conversations like this. And we hope that you've picked up a thing or two for your own path as well. My costume was made by Millie Garment in Dakuman. We're also being supported by Cheesy Pizza, and my makeup was done by Noddy's Makeup. Check it out on Instagram and on Facebook. We'll come your way same time next week with yet another inspiring conversation. But until then, do take care.